Hey guys, it's me, Galactic Lime, the guy whose voice you love so much. This video is going to be a little different. This was originally going to be a podcast-style video with some friends, but no one responded to my messages. So it's just me here. So yeah, I'll be talking about my favorite games I played in 2019. It doesn't have to be a game that was released in 2019. As long as I played it from start to finish in 2019, it's fair game. I apologize that you have to hear my constant stuttering. I'm mainly off script for this. I'm pretty much only going off bullet points because, again, I'd be doing this with at least 2 other people. Thanks, guys. Last time I asked you for a favor. So I'm going to start with some really quick honorable mentions, or at least I hope they're quick. 2 very quick ones first. Pokemon Masters and Fate Grand Order. They're gacha mobile games. They play like gacha mobile games. If you like those, you'll probably like these. If I really had to rank them, Pokemon Masters would be above Fate just because it doesn't have the BS stamina mechanic that most other gacha games have, Fate Go included. And no, I haven't spent any money on these games. I'm actually responsible with my money. You have to be when you don't have a job. A special mention goes to Escaped Chasm. It's super cute and super cute. It's like 20 minutes long, and that's why it's so hard to talk about without spoiling, like, everything. I didn't put it on the list because it's more like a tech demo than a game, but I still wanted to give it some mention. I know I would have put Dragon Quest on here if I had finished it. The original Dragon Quest that was originally released on the NES. There's just something that I personally enjoy about old school RPGs from that era. Sometimes I just like a game with a big world to get lost in, and you have to manage your money and inventory because everything can kill you, and you don't know if you should buy a new sword or some healing items. Stuff like that is just a weirdly satisfying experience for me. I bought the iOS version, and then 1 week later, Square announced a Switch port. It's a curse I have. Dragon Quest XI also gets a mention. I only played the demo, but it was a long demo. It took me about 8 hours to beat, and I was drawn in about 2 minutes in. I loved what I played. I can't wait to get my hands on this. Fire Emblem Free Houses. Short and simple. I thought I was done with Fire Emblem. This game proved me wrong. And a final mention goes to Deltarune. I honestly thought Toby Fox was going to be a one-trick pony, so it was really nice to see that he was able to make a game that had the same charm as Undertale, but is still different enough to stand out on its own. Fun fact, this game came out in 2018, and I didn't play it till 2019 because I thought it was a fan game that everyone was just overreacting to. Batting 1,000 year. I've been batting 1,000 all year round. Alright, number 5. So, 2019 was kind of the year of the budget for me. I can no longer afford my own games. I'm relying on birthday and Christmas presents and low-budget indie titles. And in some cases, the free games with Xbox Live Gold, which is why my number 5 is 2016's Hitman. So the first and only Hitman game I played before this was Hitman Absolution, and when compared to that game, it's honestly surprising just how open this game is, and it's not just with how big the levels are. The more challenges you complete, the more drop-off points and hidden item caches you unlock, and you can get new and ridiculous items like an exploding rubber duck, for example. And that's kind of what's so appealing about this game. Like, you can take it seriously and study the map and be like, I'm gonna start in the kitchen disguised as the kitchen staff and poison the sushi, and then I'm gonna push this guy off the balcony and make it look like an accident. Or you can just be like me and walk around just as Santa throwing bricks at people. But yeah, there's a surprising amount of stuff you can do, and there's also a bunch of individual stories in the background if you pay attention. Oh, I almost forgot about the elevation missions. Yeah, the elevation missions, I really enjoyed those. So the way those missions work is that every time you finish a mission, you have to do it again, but now it's harder. So, just as an example, the first time you do a challenge, it'll be something like, kill this guy with a pistol while disguised as a security guard. Then rank 2 will get harder, then rank 3 it will get harder, until you get to rank 5 where it's something ridiculous like, okay, you gotta kill the first guy with the pistol as a security guard, but you also have to kill this other guy with a kitchen knife while dressed as the cook, and you have to kill them both within 1 minute of each other, and you can't be spied by any security cameras, and you can't pacify anyone. So, this mode very much forces you to study the map, but it's a lot of fun. And honestly, this game came at a really good time for me because I'm a stealth game junkie, and every now and then I need a good stealth game to fill that little hole in my heart for the genre. And Hitman 2016 left me very satisfied. So, I think you guys are going to be a little surprised by this one, because I was honestly surprised when I really sat down and thought about it, but my number 4 is Sunwoo converses Robot. So, this is the part of the podcast where I could totally just cop out and be like, if you want to hear my opinion on this game, then go watch my review. I'm not going to do that. Okay, so in the developer's own words, Sunwoo converses Robot is a mini retro pixel Metroidvania game. Okay, so here's the thing. This game really wants to be like baby's first Metroidvania. You can easily beat it in under an hour, and the map is bite-sized when compared to other Metroidvanias. But there's just something about this one that's so appealing to me. I've beaten this game about 5 times now, and it doesn't feel like it's getting any old. It doesn't feel like it's getting old anytime soon. I think the 8-bit art style of indie games has been overdone, but it's been done really well here. You can tell what most enemies do just from looking at them. The bosses are animated pretty well. All the environments stand out from each other. And it's just a satisfying game to play. The player character controls very fluently, the power-ups are fun to use, and some of them are hard to find, actually. My last playthrough was the first time I actually 100%ed the game. Yeah, I can't think of much else to say, but I highly recommend this if you like Metroidvanias. So, this year, I also got to reconnect with an old series from my childhood. I got my hands on the one game in the franchise that I had never played, and that was SOCOM 2 US Navy SEALs. I love the SOCOM games. They're the reason why I'm a stealth game junkie, like I said earlier. I loved the first game growing up. The third game was okay, I think. But I never played the second game because these were actually my dad's games, who is more out of the loop with video games, and we weren't allowed to play M-rated games, although Mom was a little more lenient with us playing these games for some reason. Anyway, after playing SOCOM 2, I can see why it's considered to be the best game in the series. There's a lot of quality of life improvements from the last game. It really encourages stealth this time around with the bonus objectives. There are secondary objectives you can finish to gain bonuses for, like, the following missions, like extra health or you can get extra health, or maybe even there'll be less enemies on the map. And some of them can only be done by... Some of those missions can only be done by eavesdropping on enemies, so you have to stay hidden. There's a lot of quality of life improvements, like I said. Enemies now appear on your mini-map, but only if you or a teammate can see them, so it's not too broken. The AI is a lot better, at least from my experience. And it is much easier than the original game. I've still yet to finish SOCOM 1 on the lowest difficulty, but SOCOM 2 I managed to beat on the Commander difficulty, which I want to say is like a 3 out of 5 on the difficulty scale. I'll have to double check that. But it's still difficult in some areas, with one mission in particular I have a personal vendetta against. It's honestly really hard to express why I love these games, especially considering they're not as absurd or character-focused as other stealth games like Metal Gear or Hitman. But I really enjoyed my time with SOCOM 2, and I honestly think it could be my absolute favorite stealth game. If not, it's at least in my top 3. But only time will tell in the end. I'd say play this as soon as you can, but that requires you to still have a PS2, and backwards compatibility is a foreign concept to Sony. So, if for some reason you decide to start collecting PS2 games, then make this the first in your collection. Collect PS2 games. It'd be stupid enough to do that. My number 2 is Devil May Cry 5. Not a big surprise, this game is on a lot of people's list for very good reason. It's just about everything I could have wanted from a Devil May Cry game. Fast-paced action, cheesy dialogue, stupid over-the-top action. Just give me the works. Hook it to my veins. All the characters are super fun to play this time around. This game made me like Nero, and I don't know if I'm okay with that. I really did not like Nero's playstyle in Devil May Cry 4, so I'm really glad that the Devil Triggers were able to provide enough variety to make him actually enjoyable this time around. V was really fun to play. I fully understand why some people might not find his playstyle enjoyable, but I honestly really liked his Beastmaster-esque fighting style. Honestly, I found Dante to be a little disappointing this time around. That's not me saying Dante was bad. He was still really fun to play. It's just that part of the thrill of a new DMC game for me is to see what kind of new and insane weapons Dante will get, and he didn't really get anything new this time around. I don't want to go into story spoilers, but I'm gonna go into weapon spoilers to try and show what I'm talking about. So we have the returning Rebellion and Belrog. Rebellion gets an upgrade later, but that's story related, so I won't go into that. But it's basically the same weapon with new powers. King Cerberus is just Cerberus from the third game with new abilities. And Cavalier was the only weapon that was really new, and that one was a bit too slow for my liking. Oh shit, I forgot about the guns! How can I forget the guns? Yeah, the Doctor Hat thing was fun. I can't pronounce that name. That was fun to use. The dual rocket launchers were okay. I'm still trying to figure them out, honestly. What else? I didn't really like the way the style points were handled this time around. They made it so that it's better off ignoring certain fights with weaker enemies. Or, no, rather, they made it so that it's better off ignoring fights with weaker enemies, because the small fry just have such low health that you can't get off enough style points to finish off the level with a good enough style. Maybe it was like that in the older games, but it was much more noticeable this time around. Screw the S ranks in Chapter 8 and 10 in particular. I think that's all I have to say. It was great to see that Capcom still knows what they're doing. Check out Devil May Cry 5, especially if you like fast-paced action. Oh yeah, also Devil Trigger is great. Should I put this here? Screw it. Okay, so the way this video was originally structured was that we were all going to share our most disappointing games we played after presenting our number one, but I don't think this segment will have the same effect with just me, so I guess I'll just unceremoniously drop it here. So, I actually really like the Let me try that again. I actually really like the Hyperdimension Neptunia series. I honestly couldn't tell you why. I think it mainly has to do with my love for RPGs and most forms of absurd humor. So I've been slowly chipping away at those games, and so far the spin-offs in this series have been one major disappointment after the other. And the biggest disappointment for me was Hyperdimension Neptunia Production Perfection. So maybe that was partially my fault, maybe something got lost in translation with me, but everything I saw about this game screamed rhythm game to me. I love rhythm games. This is not a rhythm game. In fact, I struggle to even call it a game. It feels like a bare-bones visual novel. And no, that's not me saying visual novels aren't games. I'm saying that this game feels like gameplay was kept at the absolute minimum. The quote-unquote gameplay sections are just watching the characters dance and pressing the buttons when the crowd starts clapping. And guess what? You don't even need to do that. You don't even need to do that if you don't want to. So, like, what's even the point of this game? If you weren't stupid like me and knew this wasn't a rhythm game, what would compel you to buy this? I could see the appeal of interacting with your favorite characters, but I personally prefer to see these characters interact with each other, not the self-insert player character. But yeah. Hyperdimension Neptunia Production Perfection. Do not recommend. Biggest disappointment I've played all year. Now, I know a lot of people watching this will not agree with my number one for many reasons, but when I think of what game came out in 2019 that I had the most fun with, nothing beats Bloodstained Ritual of the Night. There really was no competition. I played this game for 4 days straight with very few breaks. I loved it that much. The gameplay's solid, the music's good, I liked experimenting with the weapons, learning new techniques and cooking recipes. I loved obtaining new shard abilities to play around with, the customization, the environments, and whenever I found a secret, it felt like I earned it. It's a little hard to express why I like this game so much without repeating myself, but I had so much fun with this, and there's very few problems I can think of that this game has. There were some game-breaking bugs I ran into, but it was never enough to take me out of the experience. But then again, I play Bethesda games, so I've probably gained a tolerance to the shit. The only problem I really had, aside from the glitches, let me stress that, the only problem I really had was when I had to traverse underwater with a shard ability that I can describe as clunky at best, and there was only one shard in particular that felt flat out pointless. Like, seriously, what's the need for Bunny Morph? But other than that, I love this game. I didn't want to put it down when I played it. I almost want to play it again as I'm talking about it. I probably sound a lot like how Castlevania fans are of Symphony of the Night, but please play this game if you haven't already. And yeah, I know, the DLC is coming along way too slow for some, but I'm probably not gonna care too much as long as it's still ultimately delivered. Yeah, that's pretty much it from me. Thank you all for watching, stay positive, have a good year.
Cinder and blight.